inspiring talks from all three of you. Let me first ask a question of all of you. First day in the job. What shocks you most? Ajay?
Depends which job you're talking about. But
World Bank,
World
definitely.
Bank,
yeah.
the quality of people was amazing. They've lived in everywhere. Their knowledge base is amazing. They have taken their families from one difficult situation to another. So the quality of people was amazing. The dysfunctionality of how the place worked was frightening. And so when you brought together this quality of people with this 189 shareholders and 25 resident executive boards and 20 advisors each, that was a daunting task. And in all this, I was trying to make the place, Karin was talking about 3 adjectives she used. Mine were, I was trying to make it faster, better, and simpler. And try and get the place to be faster, better, and simpler when you have 400 advisors and 25 board members, all well-intentioned. Everybody's well-intentioned, but the combination is complicated.
Karin?
Yeah, I was trying to remember. I mean, I started in Daimler Truck, not as the CEO, but I was running one of the divisions. So I think I was a bit nervous.
Still, when you are in charge, there are things that sadly jump at you.
So I was running one of the biggest divisions. I think my first was very simple. I moved from Sweden to Germany, so I thought I have to buy a lot of suits and people are going to be really dressed up. But actually, they'd just been running this culture program. So I came in really dressed up, but everyone else had started dressing down. So I was totally overdressed. So that was my first culture shock. But then when the meeting started, then it turned a little bit the other way. So I was a little bit shocked. I mean, I mentioned some of it, like there were just 18 people to discuss very simple topics. So just the amount of people and how complicated we were making everything.
Jesper?
Well, I think maybe the thing that was striking for me was meeting a lot of customers. And one customer, a lady in Japan, told me when I visited her home, said that basically she liked IKEA and she was an old customer of IKEA. But on a Tuesday night, she said, when I put the kids to bed and I've done the dishes, I'm not going to go to IKEA. So if you don't show up in my telephone, I'm going to choose somebody else. And that shook me. And what shook me, secondly, was that we had stopped listening to customers. And I think there was an intent and a drive within the company to stay away from unnecessary cost and so forth. But we hadn't really got a 360 of what happened in the world. I think the interesting thing was we were so used to be the disruptor, so we didn't see when disruption happened to ourselves. And that was an interesting moment.
It's always, there's always a question, as you know, disruption is coming, and I think everyone in this room is now going through this phase. Everyone, we don't know exactly how AI will change a lot of businesses, but we know for certain that it will. What you chose to do was to sort of confront it head on and rush into it. Doesn't culture often prevent you from doing that? So, I mean, we've spent most of the day about the positives of culture, but there is also a negative in that it can breed complacency because you are so comfortable in the culture. That you have a strong culture and this is what drives, this is what has driven the institution to excellence for a long time. Did you feel that?
Massively. I think it was one of the themes during my years as CEO was this debate. So I think what I learned now, if I would describe it mathematically, I don't know why, but we tend to put the future and the past against each other in a linear way. At least I experienced that in IKEA. Strong culture means strong legacy, strong beliefs in how we have always done it. And of course, there comes a point where you start to shut down to the curiosity of what the future looks like, even if your value is curiosity. So I think the beauty is love the past, understand the past, and create the future, but not as a linear equation. And then you will be able to find, I think, the beauty in it. If you drop the past, who you are and all of that, of course, you will take enormous risks. But that is easily
you had moments
as an intellectual exercise, but you have to fight for it.
You had moments, I know you've been quoted in the FT as saying, sometimes you just have to go with your gut.
Did I say that?
You have, yeah.
Okay. I have to admit
I have it.
Yeah.
I can prove it.
Yeah, but
to
the
you.
thing is, the problem with the future versus the past is that the past has proof, but the future doesn't. So therefore, you need to invest more than 50% of your energy in the future. You need to be prepared to make all sorts of mistakes in it. I like the conversation before about calculated mistakes. Can somebody get hurt? Can the company go beyond? But I think and just to add that, in IKEA, even in IKEA being an entrepreneurship culture, I met so many people who said they were afraid of making mistakes. So I invented this Go Banana card, which is, it was a sign of desperation, I think, from my side, but it's basically the card that gives you, if you make a mistake and you're in trouble, I've already co-signed the mistake together with you. So that gives you, and I think I've issued thousands of them. And the first one I issued to, he came back and said, I have made a mistake. I said, that was fast. What did you do? I copied it to all my people in my organization, 10,000 people. So anyways.
One thing that you often hear from, I think, more American CEOs talking about Europe is that what we lack in Europe is a culture of risk-taking. This is why, we're afraid, we don't actually promote, build a company, but fail. Failure is okay. To what extent do you feel that?
I was just reflecting on the question before. So I worked 16 years in Scania, and that company hasn't had a negative quarter for 100 years. And I think in that context, it was harder than when I came into Daimler Truck, where in Mercedes-Benz Trucks, my first job, I mean, we needed to change things because we weren't earning any money. So I think then it's much easier, and the culture supports driving change. So I think it depends a little bit, and now we're not, a restructuring case anymore. We're doing pretty good. So I think to focus on the why we still need to change is very important. In terms of this European versus American, I mean, I have almost as many people in the US as in Europe. So one thing that we started doing much more actively the last couple of years, it's to move people between, to get a little bit more American optimism into our European part of the organization, get a little bit more of maybe German diligence sometime into some of the American parts of the company. So I think that helps to balance. But it is true that that in our culture as a company, people are still quite afraid to make mistakes. So we have to become even better at allowing that to happen.
Ajay, do you feel that in your interactions with your members, but also with staff?
Yeah, well, remember, in my case, I deal with members who are governments, and then my clients are both governments in the emerging markets, but also private sector companies, and it's quite a wide range of people. What I'm trying to instill in the bank is 3 values that I brought with me from when I was at MasterCard. My first year at MasterCard as the CEO, I got a calendar, the old things you used to get when you actually had a calendar, you turned pages. And I got that. And on the other side was sayings, 1 for each month. I found 3 of them very useful. They're in my office. You can see them anytime you come. And the first one is, done is better than perfect. And I think people don't really understand how deep that is as a thought. At the bank, it's a particularly challenging issue. But done is better than perfect. The second one is fail faster and harder. So that's kind of the idea of taking a risk, and taking the risk of failing is kind of important. And the third is the most important in the bank and earlier, was question everything always. And the issue there is you get told when you come to a company or an organization with an old history, legacy history, it will tell you, oh no, we tried that 28 years ago and it didn't work. Yeah, but that doesn't matter, because 28 years ago, oil was priced at $20 or $9. Today it's not. 28 years ago, X had changed, Y had changed. And so this issue of it didn't work and therefore it won't work now is kind of a cancer in an organization. And to be able to change these things, those 3 I found useful. I kind of carry them with me even now. And I've converted it to, in our development plan for employees at MasterCard and now at the World Bank. This is common across these 2, private and public. There are only 4, every employee gets every year a conversation with their boss. and it has 4 boxes. And the first box is what do I like about you? The second box is what you can do better. The third box is how do I think about you on 3 attributes: a sense of urgency, a sense of thoughtful risk-taking, and the willingness to be empowered but then be accountable. And then the last box is what do I think you can do in 1 to 3 years and 3 to 5 years, and whose job is it to get you there? And if you can't fill up that box for one of your subordinates in less than 5 minutes, I, in MasterCard, used to keep, those old things with sand runs out? It had a 5-minute measure. And I would keep it in front of the employee and say, write the card. If you couldn't finish it in 5 minutes, you didn't know your employee well.
How does the staff react to this?
And in the beginning, they thought I was crazy. But as you go along, they begin to realize the value of this idea. I think in the World Bank, it is similar. When I first started talking about this, they began to think that this is crazy and he doesn't know what he's talking about and it won't work in the public sector. Today, I think if you walk around the halls of the World Bank, there are 3 kinds of people in every organization. I have them too. 1/3 of the people are delighted I am there and want me to succeed every day. 1/3 of the people just wish I would die tomorrow morning. And 1/3 of the people are waiting to see what happens to me. And your job as a cultural change leader is to get the last 1/3 to come on the side of the first 1/3. You're never going to win over the ones who want you to die.
So what do you do with the ones in the middle?
You just work at them. I'm busy working at the guys who are on the fence to come to the correct side. And I think if you get that right, you get 2/3 on your side, and 2/3 is a winning combination. You will change the whole place. And that is the point that James was making about winning. You have to get that 1/3 onto the side of saying, I'm on the winning side. And then you're.
It is much harder for you though, because you're not in the private sector, and that must be quite a culture shock.
Well, I chose to leave the private sector. I retired a year or so before James, and he and I talked a lot about succession and planning. And I went through this whole process. I chose to leave, and I thought I was retiring. David knows me for a long time and knows I was busy trying to do this retirement thing. And then I ended up doing a combination of 3 things. I joined General Atlantic, where James now is as vice chair. I became chair of John Elkan's family holding company, Exor. He stepped down and became CEO. I became chair, and I joined Temasek, and I thought I had died and gone to heaven. I used to work half a day and make more money. And so it felt very good until I got called into this job. And now I earn no money and I work 16 hours a day. So there's something wrong with what's going on here, and I don't know what it is, but I'll get there. The thing is, at the end of the day, I am very proud of what the bank is. I firmly believe that you need more of it in the coming 20 years, not less, but I do believe it needs to change to be perfected for the next 20 as compared to living off the last 80. And I think that's what all of us are trying to say.
I want to pick up on your decency, Toshan,
DQ,
because
Dairy Queen.
because we often talk about decency, and every company wants to treat its staff decently. And to a certain extent, you can explain some of the difficult decisions that you are making, but you often also need to let people go, right?
Yeah.
How do you handle that? Is that one of the, Karin, I'm looking at you, is that one of the most difficult things that you've had to do? And is there a good way of doing it?
Yeah, I think it's always difficult on a human level, but the way I try to think of it personally is I'm doing something which is better for the company long term, and I know it's the right thing, so I have to do it. And now, to be honest, I've done it enough that it's something I'm quite used to. And then it's about really explaining the why and doing it in a respectable way. Different in different countries, exactly the process, but always showing respect and just being honest and straight on it.
Do we show far too much respect in Europe?
Show too much respect?
In Europe?
Wow,
because
I didn't know there
it's
was
very
something
difficult to let people go.
Yeah, you mean in that sense. Well, you know what, I don't have that experience. I think I had the unfortunate situation on many occasions to have to let people go and organize for it. Once when I was in China, it was structurally, we were sort of totally outdated strategically in the structure. And then I think as a transformation hit IKEA and such, we had to do a lot of changes. I hate it. I'm not sleepless about a lot of things, but this is one of them. And I think in the, how to say, the coward within me who would love to delegate this says that you have to confront people and be part of it. So I think the only way I know of it is to engage and be present and be around when it happens. I've not had anyone I can remember that questioned the decision. But so combining professionalism and being caring, I think, is the model, because you have to care also for the people who stay with the company. And then the best thing you can do is to remember when you've done that you don't want to do this too often. So be a little bit mindful of your decisions and how you actually, in particular, the complacency that sometimes comes to us as leaders, right? Because basically organizations are like plants, they grow whether you like it or not. They won't shrink or get more efficient or simple by time. They're going to get more complicated, bureaucratic, and outdated. So the more you can be there and garden it, I think you can avoid bigger things in the future. Sometimes.
You might want to spend a bit more time with Mr. O'Leary. It will stiffen you. There is a question from the audience about AI, which I think is a good follow-up. Will leading people and AI workers or agents change the way that you lead as a CEO, as a business leader? If you
look
were
at me?
today,
Okay, very good.
yes.
Good. So massively, I think it's maybe in ways that we don't fundamentally understand today also. It's incredibly interesting. It's one of those topics that in our conversations we like to draw some sort of average, but in AI, I think the opportunities are amazing. Quality, efficiencies, whatnot. But the risks from a human perspective, I don't think we have fully embraced yet. But it gives us an opportunity, I think, to maybe go a bit deeper in ourselves, also as leaders and as humans, to reflect on what is truth, what is the value of something that is human-led and human-created, and those questions. But I think the thing that IKEA and I did was, so I belong to the first generation of parents, I think, that thought we gave our kids a telephone, but it was something a little bit more powerful. Today, we in our family, we are okay, except my wife, she's not listening. So she's the only one we have to help sometimes with the addiction to social media and whatnot. The promise of making us connected in social media came with an incredible depth of loneliness and mental damage. And I think, personally, after listening to people who know much more than I do about AI, the risks with AI might be much, much higher than so. So therefore, I think we need to work faster on catching up to the negative sides, how it's going to impact us.
So you think of it more as the societal impact?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think, again, wonderful opportunities for us, and it will happen. It always been in I think, history of humankind, whatever can be automized or made efficient will be made efficient, automized. So, and it gives us an opportunity to ask, where do we as humans add value? And in this case, maybe also, are we okay to be, do we see ourselves as mastering a tool, or are we the opposite? And this is the first time I think we've been in that situation. So it's very interesting and scary.
Karin, how do you think about it?
Well, first of all, I think it brings new business opportunities. So one big bet that we do, we have a software company in the US to figure out how to make the trucks self-driving, which would take away 25 to 30% of the cost for our customers when we make that happen. And that's only possible with AI, or at least greatly accelerated the path to productization. Then on like the company side, I think it kind of amplifies what was already starting to happen with technology and software and so on, which is we guys on the board, we're definitely not the experts, even if we all grew up in engineering and did a lot of great things. So it even further puts demands on us to be able to push out decision making and make sure that people are enabled to drive business who are closest to it.
Ajay, do you find your employees excited about AI, or do you find that there are very few people who actually use it. And you track usage.
Employees are beginning to use it quite a bit. We've kind of, in our case, for example, if you're going to put up a water project to do desalination in Jordan, you would love to be able to learn from 10 prior experiences. But to actually dig through those 10 projects, find the learnings, synthesize them, produce them together would take weeks of work for a loan officer. And now you can actually go onto a platform we have and ask that question, and it'll dig out all this for you, and it'll also allow you to know when the AI may be hallucinating, because you can scroll over the numbers and it shows you the source of the data. So it's useful. I will say, if I could just zoom back for a second, my clients are the emerging markets, not the developed world. I'll speak from that perspective. The AI we all talk about in the developed world is large language models and the like. That requires 4 things: computing power, lots of it; electricity, a heck of a lot of it; data, lots of it kept in its simplest form with privacy. And the more data you have, the more predictive the model is. And 4th, people who know how to do all this. The emerging markets don't have these 4. Computing power, electrification, data, and people who know how to do this are not exactly what the strength is of a developing country. And so, to me, they could get left behind if that's the only thing we think about. And so, what we're talking about to the emerging markets is actually the use of AI to create applications for an illiterate woman farmer to be able to use a phone and look at the backside of a leaf and say, I don't know what that disease is, but that insecticide from my cooperative for 25 rupees will kill it. Or a nurse in a primary health center in a village in Egypt gets somebody coming in and says, I have a rash, and they can go to their doctor who's remote and figure out whether it's eczema or something more serious and needs an appointment, and so on. So I think the use of AI apps, which is kind of what we're all playing with, is actually quite interesting for the future of what I deliver. I think getting stuck in LLM being the only model is going to be hard. And then the last part I'd say is LLM assumes that the global flow of data is seamless. I would tell you need to be very careful thinking about how long before governments start thinking of data as a national security asset. And when that starts happening, just as today, we've all realized that energy is a national security policy. We kind of didn't know that, it feels, till 1 month ago. But now we're all thinking that way. In the same way, I believe data of your citizens will become something that will be a fairly complex national security topic. So I'm not fully sure that I know that I can predict which way this AI development will go. I think right now it just feels there's only one way. Big box centers, lots of data, stuff getting churned out, stuff coming out the other side, and it'll replace you in your job. I think that narrative is a broken narrative, but that's me.
Can we end by with some advice? This is a question from the audience. What's the best advice that you would give to a younger generation, people in their 20s? I don't know if there are many of them in the audience.
I don't see one.
But someone did ask. So, Jesper, you go.
Wow, I'm going to pass on the advice I got from my mother when I was in that age. What am I going to do with my life? And she said, look for what you're good at, look what you love to do, and if you find both, you will be happy, she said. So now the advice is yours. That goes for elderly people as well. So it's
True.
Karin?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think do the things that you're passionate about. And I would also say something I would have needed to hear maybe when I was 20, just believe in yourself, Ultimately, you can do much more than what you might think. So who says you're not going to change the world? That's in your head. So just go for it.
one truck at a time, yes.
One truck at a time.
I think life is 50% luck. The other 50% is what you do with the luck when it comes your way. Most people don't seize their luck when it comes their way. If you're not willing to take a risk, you're going to be left on that platform and the train will leave and you'll be waving goodbye to your luck. So you have to learn how to take risks. Take them, play with them, embrace your passions, be optimistic, number 1, 2, and 3. It will all be fine. It'll all be fine.
Well, most of the time.
Wow.